right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. This week we have on strength coach Katie Harrell. Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, so why don't you start? Just introduce yourself a bit to the audience, how you got into coaching and sort of your background.
In a previous life, I taught high school science and health for like close to
Oh,
10 years. Yeah.
nice.
And I was always into nutrition. I was a nutrition coach like before I was a teacher. COVID, I was also on my maternity leave. My position was eliminated. So
Mm,
um, I was like, well, I guess I'll just do this full time and also raise a baby. And while I was uh, pregnant and postpartum, I was part of a gym, a CrossFit gym, and they didn't quite know what to do with me. I was like the first pregnant person they've ever encountered.
yeah.
And so they were, I was always like, well, just ride the bike, just ride the bike. And I knew that there had to be more than that. And so,
Hmm.
naturally during my first couple months of maternity leave, I also got a certification for pre and postnatal coaching. So that led to just training a lot of like pregnant, postpartum moms. And then I started working at a CrossFit gym, got my CrossFit credential at my
Level
L1,
one or
my
whatever. Yeah,
L1, yeah.
yeah.
And I could tell that that quite wasn't what I wanted to be doing. It wasn't,
Hmm.
I felt a lot of members were getting a disservice because we weren't addressing needs. It was too broad, and what most people need was more specific. Um,
Hmm.
and I had been really interested in active life professional ALP. And so I enrolled in that, and for that, for me, really clicked. And so I've been doing that for almost a year. So I graduated a few months ago, and so I've been doing that full time. I left the CrossFit gym, and now I'm on my own.
With your prenatal postnatal, was that the Girls Gone Strong one?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
that one came
I did
highly
that one when my
recommended.
wife was pregnant.
Oh,
It's
really?
I know it's so good because it's again it helps you realize that there's not that many differences in training. Again, so much of it's just symptom dependent,
Mhm.
but it's nice to have like that resource to look back on and just know like, okay, hey, I need to make sure to avoid this or watch for these little things. And yeah, it's just a great course.
Yeah, and it does like help reframe people like my client's mind of that like fear that holds them back from training like they
Yep.
used to, and they don't know. Like I didn't know before I got my like what
Yeah.
I could do. Am I supposed to be squatting? Like is the baby gonna come out of
Yep.
me? And so I think that really helped with yeah, just sharing that message of like where our bodies are not fragile. Like we can still do
Hmm.
things. They're not invincible, but they're not fragile. And so I really like
Yeah.
that message. And just it's a really fun group.
I know. I think back to like my first ever pregnant client where she was just told, okay, you can never do this, never do that, never do this. And now realizing it's like, well, okay, it's symptom dependent. It's like if she lays on her back, say for bench press, and she feels fine, like it's probably fine versus being like, okay, we can never ever bench press, never ever.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
maybe a little more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
Which again, if you're a doctor, you're just going to cover your bases. Obviously, I get that, but that's also why you hire a qualified professional who can like find those nuances.
And if they're not comfortable going on their back because their doctor told them not to, there's like you don't have to
Mhm.
avoid it. We can just change the angle of things
Modify.
or yeah,
Exactly.
modify. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you mentioned how you kind of got into the active life professional, again, from what I've most of the best information I feel like I've got from your pages involving like chronic pain and kind of how people work around that. What made that kind of a targeted area for you or something that really inspired you?
Working with several of my clients, or even like just watching members in the gym struggle with mobility issues or avoiding movement patterns altogether because they
Hmm.
couldn't raise their arms overhead or didn't feel comfortable um, squatting too parallel and just avoiding those movements
Hmm.
altogether. And I knew that yet like some modifications were helping them, but we weren't like addressing the root. And so I mean we can box squat
Hmm.
forever, but like is that really improving their outcome? It's better than nothing, of course, but um
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to really get to the root of things and then really help people break past that limiting, I don't want to say thinking, but their limited like belief around what their bodies can
Yeah.
do.
I mean, it's definitely is a limited belief. And
Hmm.
I think that's one of my favorite things in listening to Sean on podcasts from Active Life talk about that of, okay, so we can have them do these very, or like, just general programming, but it's like, that's probably not going to like give them their best life going out of the gym. Like, how can we find things that lets them expand their capacity so they're not having to always modify things and can just keep moving forward. Honestly, the movement avoidance things has been one of my favorite things of the last few years of, realizing like as a beginning trainer where I didn't always know how to like, I'm not gonna say I can fix things, but you're just like, okay, well, I guess we'll do hamstring curls because we have no idea how to deadlift or whatever. And instead of now realizing, okay, well, how many, can we add like little constraints or whatever that gets them in a position, or maybe it's a movement trip drill that makes them feel better, or whatever it is, and just finding those little ways to, because it's really cool if you get someone who say always had chronic back pain, could never do like a barbell deadlift, and over the course of weeks or months, you get them to where they can do it. That's just a really cool thing to see for someone that, what used to be like a blocked off thing for them is now something they can just do whenever they want.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so fulfilling, right? Like versus,
Hmm.
I mean, it's really cool to help somebody like add 10 pounds to their back squat, but for
Yeah,
me, it's even cooler to help um, the client be able to put their like socks on by themselves, you
exactly.
know. Or I had a client who would had knee pain and avoided again all the things, and we could do banded leg extensions. We can continue to do that, but that's not helping her go up and down the
Yep,
stairs. Right, she's like walking down up and down
exactly.
sideways, and she's a doula, so
Yep,
she's like up and down carrying babies and bags and stuff. So she's like, let's get them living the way they want to, and like living the best lives that they can,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. There's never anything cooler than when someone's like, wow, I never thought I'd do X again. And it's like, yeah, like that's just part of your life again. Like you can just do that now.
Yeah. And it's just a neat thing when, doctors maybe have told them like, well, this is just how it's going to be. Don't
Yep.
or avoid deadlifting, and then the trainer's
Yep.
like, well, if that's what your doctor said, we can just work around it. But what are you going to do when you need to like pick up your dog to carry him to the car to
Exactly.
the vet, or pick up your kid from the playground when it's time to go? It's being able to do the things outside the gym so that they can live the best lives that they can.
Exactly. And it's not, obviously as trainers, we're never trying to override like what a doctor said or something on
Yeah, exactly.
stuff, but it's, again, a lot of times we have to, as a doctor, they have to give general advice because obviously they're trying to like keep someone from getting into a very compromising position. It's like, obviously we're never gonna be like, take that same person, just max deadlift immediately. But it's like, well, if we can expand your capacity on say like a toe elevated Romanian deadlift, and now that feels fine. And then eventually maybe a regular Romanian, and then eventually maybe a trap bar feels fine. It's like, well, if we can keep expanding and the symptoms are allowing it, like why wouldn't we just keep trying to expand their window of possibilities there?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
One of my other favorite posts you did recently was on like the social response to pain and how we learn that from our families, which I thought was really interesting because you always hear that's like, oh, the Johnsons always have bad knees or bad backs or whatever it is. And it's funny how that there does just become a learned thing where people just assume like, well, yeah, my whole family runs with bad backs. And it's like, why? That's that's not something that is like you're stuck with for the rest of your life. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So bad backs, bad knees, bad hips,
Mm,
shoulders, whatever it is. Um, if we're just told all our lives, like, I have a bad back, and so d- I can't play basketball anymore. And so we
mm,
replace that with environmental factors, like we maybe sit more and we're taking the elevator
yeah,
instead of the stairs. And we're not challenging our
mhm,
movement patterns, we're not challenging ourselves to get into those movement patterns. So if we're raised with these beliefs that it is what it is, then that's just what we grow to know, and then we never really get to see that there's something beyond that, and it doesn't have to be this way. And with a
yep,
few adjustments, or like we were talking about, modifications, progressions, whatever it is, we can
mhm.
get past that like sentence, this like
Yeah, well,
like movement sentence that we've been given.
exactly. It does kind of become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's funny because it ties in with one of the other questions I had on one of your other posts, but is so many times people just assume like, okay, well, my back used to hurt deadlift, and then they should go right back to the same weight and it hurts again. And then it's like, well, you see, I'm just not meant to do whatever exercise. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, what if we started? I mean, I had someone where they had metatarsalgia, so they were having like severe foot pain. And this is someone who is really strong. So it wasn't like an issue with any of their upper body or lower body muscles. It's literally, they just couldn't put pressure on their foot. So we started her deadlifts at like 65 pounds, which was like comically light, but it allowed her to expand on that. And then we just kept adding and adding. And we actually did for a while. We would only add every other week. We weren't even adding every week. And now she's done something like 265 or something like that with no foot pain. And, if you take basically most injuries, you can take that from some level of like finding something. I think a lot of times people assume it has to be challenging right away. And it's like, it doesn't have to be challenging. It's more symptom dependent.
Well, and the capacity that
Exactly.
our bodies have, right? So we have this capacity line here, and there's different things that affect that. So it's like your anatomical the things you were born with, right? Like
Mm, yep.
the shape of your hip socket, or if you played football and you had several concussions, like the things that we just
Hmm.
can't change about our bodies. And then you have the recovery piece in there. And that's all the lifestyle things, right? Like sleep, diet, stress,
Hmm.
and how we manage those.
Yep.
And a lot of us are not managing them very well.
No.
And then you have your functional capacity, and that's what your body can do right now, like how it moves. And
Hmm.
the better you can get into movement patterns, the smaller that box is, and the harder those movement patterns are for you, and the harder it is for you to
Yep.
move, the bigger that box is. And so you stack all these things up into your capacity line, and then you add things like your responsibilities, being a parent, taking care
Hmm.
of your parents, cleaning the house, like all the
Yeah.
responsibilities of everyday life. And then from there, we have exercise. And so sometimes we'll try to jam exercise, and then we go over our capacity, and that's the injury. And we think
Yep.
the
It's the
deadlift,
exercise. Yeah.
yeah, oh, I threw out my back from the deadlift, and so deadlifts are bad. And
Yep.
well, no, it's because of all these other things. And we just tried to force that in. We weren't ready to hit
Hmm.
that. We exceeded our capacity of what our body could handle.
Hmm. No, exactly. And it's, again, I was just talking about this on a recent podcast we did on how I used to assume everything was form related. And it's like, I still think form's important,
Mhm,
but it's like there's so many other factors. Like I've had clients like say when they're going through a divorce, it's not surprising how much more often their pain is triggered.
mhm.
And it's important to remember it's like, okay, this does not mean there's anything physical happening here. You have so many other stressors going on in your life. Your body's just giving you a response to try to get you to pull back a little bit. And it's obviously we're still going to try to listen to that degree, but we're also not going to just that hurts and automatically assume, okay, I did something damaging. It's like, or you're just going through more stress right now and it'll be fine tomorrow as long as we're not stupid today.
Exactly, and we just need to back off a little bit for this
Mhm.
season. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then build up some of that tolerance again, and work on decreasing all those other the things we can, like the diet and the sleep and stress.
Yep.
Work on decreasing that, and then over time, our job as trainers, and healthcare professionals is to help them raise that capacity line so that they can
Exactly.
begin to tolerate more running, heavier lifts, um, you know,
Yep.
all the fun things we want to do.
Exactly. And I think it is like obviously a person could do this themselves to a degree, but I think what it is so important, like you were saying on having a professional with you, is we're not as emotionally attached. So I think it's a lot easier. It's so much because even in my own workouts, I'm so guilty of this sometimes where like, my back hurts on the second set of deadlifts. I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm planning 3 sets today. I'm doing 3 sets.
Mhm,
Versus if I was coaching that same person, I'm gonna be like, let's take 20 pounds off for your last set, or let's, do a set of 3 instead of a set of 5. It's so much easier from the outside to say that. Like
mhm.
we're so guilty on our own of being like, well, I've done 2 sets. I might as well just finish it out.
Well, the program says 3 sets.
I know. I know.
Same, same. Yeah, and it's just having that, like you said, the overall or overarching picture, the person that can look from a 360 review, because we're all, I think, so hard on ourselves. Like I
Mhm.
should be able to finish this third set. Um,
Yep.
and it's just nice to be like told, like, yeah, like you said, like, well, if that was like your back hurt, what did it feel like on a scale of 10? And you say like an
Yep.
8. It's like, okay, well, we're doing, something.
Yeah,
We should
we're not
probably
gonna
back
keep
that down a
going.
little bit. Yeah, let's not push that. Yeah, and
No.
then we exceed our capacity.
It's the, uh it's the classic case. I think, like, I should say Americans, but it's people in general. We're so bad at either being all or nothing. It's like, well, my back hurts, so I'm not gonna do anything, or my back hurts, screw it, I'm doing the full program. It's like there's a
Mhm.
huge gray area in between there that's probably gonna be a lot happier spot for someone.
Yeah, exactly.
So similar to what we were talking there as far as capacity, I think one of the common things we see a lot of times for people is, something hurts, they kind of rebuild a little bit and then it gets to feeling better. And then they just try to go right back into, their regular program from before. And then that's where we tend to see that pain cycle again. Could you kind of talk like kind of a better approach of what we want to look at there when we're trying to rebuild back to a previous level?
Yeah, The short answer is patience.
Yeah.
Um, thank you. You can
Yeah.
follow me at no,
Easy. Yeah.
like and subscribe.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness. So, we have the pain, we back off, and then it feels better, and we think, great, it's good to go,
It's
and then we
on.
jump right
Yep.
back into it, and then we go back into that pain. And sometimes it's worse because we haven't let those tissues heal, or the tendon's still inflamed, or whatever the reason. And so
Yeah.
instead of being like jumping back into it, for example, like instead of jumping into your current mileage where you left off, or the current weight that you were lifting,
Mm.
perhaps a better approach would be to slowly
Yeah.
progress into it. So instead of
Mhm.
jumping back into daily 5 mile run, that's and it's really hard because when you're working with athletes like you do, right?
Especially runners.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, because you're training for something, or you got the lifters that just want to be able to lift again,
Hmm.
the weights that they were. And sometimes that is attached a little bit to ego.
Hmm.
So instead, we want to really focus on managing your volume and the load so that you can create that
Yep.
capacity line a little bit heavier, while you
Yep.
are building up that your tissues be able to meet that capacity that you're asking them to do.
Exactly. So I was trying to explain to people is like almost no one, literally no one I train has like financial implications on, being able to lift X pounds by X day. So it's like,
Mhm.
if we get there in 2 weeks or if we get there in four, it doesn't really matter. Like it's still close in the relative scheme of your life. Like, and I was trying to explain to people like volume increases are where we see the biggest injury risk. It's like, if you go from 0 to 100, that it doesn't matter how good your technique is. That's still like not what your body wants to see.
But Ryan, it makes for a cool Instagram video.
I know it does. It's like, well, I got it. It
Is
said
it
this, so I'm going to do that.
No, exactly. Yeah, so and a lot of that, I joked, but it really does come down to the patients, because we want to get to where we were, because sometimes part of our identity is in our athleticism. Just
Yep.
certain populations, it's in our athleticism, it's in um, our ability to hike on weekends or play basketball or
Mhm.
whatever it is. It doesn't have to be strictly in the gym, and so it's like we want to get back to there, because if we aren't lifting at where
Who
we
are we?
were, then who are we? Yeah.
Yep.
And so a lot of that does take some patience, and that's kind of like those conversations as trainers that we have to have,
Mm.
is if this takes 2 weeks or 4 weeks, it shouldn't really matter, as long as you're able to do this beyond the 4 weeks.
Yep.
If you want to keep doing this for a long time.
I know. I literally had someone one time where, I'm trying to remember, I think it was on bench press, where basically, we found like a weight that was doable for him in terms of pain response, but he didn't want to be seen benching only X number of plates on the side. And it was just like, who the fuck, it's like, it's going to be 3 weeks of your life. Like, go at 9 o'clock at night or something. If that's that much of a concern, like,
Wear a mask, like
I
put the
know it's
hoodie
like,
on,
no one
drive in a
cares.
different car. Yeah.
But literally, I've had clients who wouldn't do a warm up set on bench with the bar. It's like, well, I don't want someone to see me benching just an empty bar. And it's like, okay, world class powerlifters still start with an empty bar sometimes too.
Yeah.
So like, why do you care? But
And nobody else cares. It's the voices that we
yeah,
tell ourselves. Yeah.
honestly, I think you could probably summarize this episode in 2 words: it's just ego and patience. It's like,
Yes.
listen to symptoms. Don't just rush things just because I have to be at X weight by X number of days.
Yeah, exactly.
And fully
Yeah.
said by two trainers who are also equally guilty of this. I'm sure, like I've done the
Yeah.
exact same stupid thing, but it's easier for me to stay on the outside. Like I
Yeah.
always tell my clients, I'm like, I make the mistake so you don't have to.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and we're also like, it's hard to give ourselves that 360 view, right?
Mm.
Because like it's easy to do it for other people, but if my program says 3 sets, I'm going to do it. But
Oh, I
then,
know.
you know, being smart and trying to be smart about it.
I know.
Totally guilty.
I said it's we're experts in this, right? Is that how that works, right? So
Yeah, we're,
we'll
we're
just
experts.
we'll
Don't
give
look.
the opinion.
Do what I say, not as we do, right?
Yeah. That's why I lift in my garage gym. It's like no one can see me
Exactly.
making stupid things that I would never let a client do. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure you were able to drop your socials so people can know where to find you or your website or anything.
Oh, cool. Yeah. You can find me mostly on Instagram. I'm Katie.Harrell, Katie with a Katie dot
Mhm.
Harrell. That's where I'm mostly.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. This was blessed.
Thank you. We'll see you guys next month.